In this video, I wanted to explore some more interactions and interesting matchups with the FLOODBORN discard deck that I made on my last video. Link to that video is in the description, where I go over the full deck list in depth and show you some gameplay in there as well. In this matchup, starting off, we are going against a Sapphire Emerald deck. So this deck utilizes some discard with Emerald and the draw engine and ramp of Sapphire with Pawpsicles and like grandmas and stuff like that. To start off, we want to do our best to play on curve, and we drop double Bucky, which means we're setting up for a good Jafar transition and possibly a Tinkerbell shift as well to get the opponent to discard their entire hand. Continuing to draw Inkables, this is really strong. The Hypnotize also doesn't really serve too much of a purpose because we lose tempo on that, so it's most likely going to be Ink. Don't get baited into playing that unless you have like a Prince John setup and you need to draw cards. You can see here though that we got the opponent to discard 2 off Bucky when we drop the Jafar Dreadnought, which is your lowest cost FLOODBORN character to play. The opponent then drops a Daisy Duck, and I'm like, okay, that's not the greatest for me, but I can deal with it. In my deck list video that I linked in the description, I talk about how you actually end up drawing a decent amount of cards with Jafar Dreadnought, and here you're seeing an example of it. It takes out a grandma. Yes, they get the ink, but we get a draw. Lucifer could potentially discard their last 2 cards in hand, or just the 1 action if they have it. Let's see what they opt to do here. Discard 1, discard 2, perfect, and they discard another Daisy Duck and a Judy Hopps. So the 2 Buckies and the Lucifer got them to discard 4 cards out of their hand, and look at the board state right now. It's absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, they top deck Pawpsicle into a Mickey, which again is not really threatening, but they do help develop their board, thin out their deck, get to their threats sooner. And our setup right now looking pretty good because as long as we draw an Inkable, we can drop Tinkerbell. And actually we don't even need to. Yeah, we can just crash Bucky because we do it does 0 damage to us into the Cheshire Cat, and then ring the Bellet away, and then Jafar Dreadnought once again taking out a threat in the Daisy Duck, drawing a card off of that. We can then ink the Cinderella and play the Benja to pop the Pawpsicle because I want to eliminate the possibility that my opponent draws a Hiram and draws more cards off of it. And what a good call that was, because they top deck a Hiram. So there you can see, understanding the decks that you're facing up against allows you to make proper decisions and just deal with the threats, deal with the metagame, so to speak. And so once again, the Jafar Dreadnought draws a card for the 3rd time, taking out the Mickey, and like we're just in total control here. There's nothing the opponent can really do. Yeah, they just resign at this point. No point in playing that Flynn because the Tinkerbell is going to take out the Hiram, and then it's going to pop the Flynn as well. We're going to drop the Beast Tragic Hero just to add insult to injury. We're going to draw 2 cards a turn, and the opponent, yeah, we're just going to quest for game next turn also anyway. So that was a GG. Moving on to this next match now. Our hand is pretty much perfect, so we're not even going to mulligan. And we're going to start off by inking Beast Tragic Hero, which is not really what you want to ink, but in this scenario, you know, it's very far away in terms of the curve, and so you want to keep your low costing cards. Now, I've talked about before not wanting to play a 1-drop hook right away, and I think this was probably a misplay, but it ends up working out for me. Normally, you would not want to play this hook. I'm going to end up skipping ahead because it's like the game glitched out on the recording for some reason. So after this Fire the Cannons, I don't know if it like froze there, if that's just my recording, and it was like freezing throughout. We end up going through a couple of turns. He still only has a Simba on board, and I have a Prince John which I can quest with because the Simba is non-threatening, and I just drop a 2nd Prince John. They are on Sapphire Steel though, so they probably have Grab Your Swords, they probably have a Whole New World, and you would think that that completely counters this deck, right? And you would be right to a certain extent, but you'll see exactly what happens here. So I'm like, perfect, this is the perfect time to use Hypnotize because I'm going to be able to draw 3 off of this, and the opponent's going to discard 1, and like my hand looks really nice. I'm going to be able to drop these Jafars to deal with the opponent's stuff, but they opt to Whole New World because they figured, you know, I have cards, they just lost cards, why not reset the board state? Unfortunately for them, I do draw off of the Prince Johns and the Whole New World, so my hand is huge, and I was actually debating not activating one of the Prince Johns because I'm like, if they have another Whole New World, I might be at risk of decking out, but I'm like, nah, let me just go ahead and just draw cards and start annihilating the opponent's board here. So because their board state was pretty weak, you can see here we're able to take out their whole board and continue questing, putting pressure on them with the Prince Johns. No Grab Your Swords comes down. I guess Tinkerbell would be the better option here because they still deal with one of the Prince Johns. and I have so many cards in hand that they're probably like, well, the drawing off the Prince John doesn't matter anyways, I don't need to really get it off the field. I draw Lucifer, and this is where the interaction becomes insane. So they have 5 cards in hand. Lucifer makes them discard 1 action. So I'm like, that's fine, draw a card, ink a Benja, and then I think I sing this Bippity Boppity Boo with my Prince John to bounce and replay Lucifer here. Absolutely insane. Get them to discard another action or 2 cards. They opt to discard 2 cards, and I think it was Tinkerbell and Beast Mirror. We draw 2 off Prince John, and I think we dropped, yeah, the Bucky here. It's relatively safe to drop Bucky because it has Ward, so even if Tinkerbell takes out the Prince John, they can deal 2 damage to my Tinkerbell or kill my Lucifer, but they can't take out the Bucky, and then Bucky will get them to discard the rest of their stuff next turn, but they just end up scooping it up there, realizing that they don't have a whole new world and can't reset the board state. In this next matchup here, I think I also didn't mulligan anything. We ink a hook and play a hook, so once again, kind of going against my philosophy of don't play your hooks right away, but since I had 2, I was like, yeah, might as well. Being able to play on curve here is nice because, again, we do have our draw engine in the Dreadnought and the Beast Tragic Hero. The opponent reveals that they're on Amber Emerald, and this is most likely the discard deck. This was considered, or might even still be considered, the best discard version, but I'm going to show you why I like this version more. So the opponent ends up playing an Enchantress and singing Sudden Chill. So I just discard the Ring the Bell, that's no problem. And this is where, again, Jafar Dreadnought can put in a lot of work. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot about You Have Forgotten Me, and so having only 2 cards in hand, the opponent, if they do have the You Have Forgotten Me, probably thinks this is a perfect time to use it, and sure enough they do. Because I played the Jafar Dreadnought though, they did have to discard a card. I don't think I checked what it was, but you can see it's a very simplified game state here, but I do have the Dreadnought, which will draw me 2 cards, 1 against the Flynn Rider, 1 against the Enchantress. Unfortunately, it will get taken out when it takes out the Enchantress, because when I attack Enchantress, it becomes a 3-1, kind of like Reverse Challenger. So they top deck Daisy Duck, and I make a big misplay here. So this is fine, I guess, taking out the Enchantress to prevent them from ramping up on lore. I should have played the Cinderella or use the effect of Tinkerbell first, and then I could have opted to like play John and the Cinderella, seeing that I would have drawn into an Inkable. So I kind of messed up there, leaving the Prince John in my hand. Now the Daisy Duck is going to discard it, and we're both in top deck mode. But like I've talked about in the deck list video, this is why I like the Floodborn version of this deck, is because we actually have top end threats that when we get into this mode, if we're in a discard mirror match or you know, facing up against one of the more meta decks that have top end threats, we can actually deal with those top end threats. And so I'm not threatened. The opponent here, look at this, like this is what Amber Emerald discard plays. So they suffer from the same problem that other like Emerald Steel decks used to suffer from, in that you don't have like the real top end threats. Like Queen is good, but like it doesn't do enough here. Like look, they're just a bunch of weenies, and they are questing still, so you know they're getting their lore in, but you're gonna see how we're gonna be able to shut this down. And in my deck list video, again linked in the description, I talk about how Hook is even good late game for exactly reasons like this, where it can trade up into more high costing characters, and it's gonna be able to trade up into the Queen here. And I wasn't too concerned because again, we have those top end threats, and Beast is definitely one of them. Beast is probably the best top deck here because it's a draw engine, as well as potentially becoming a 7/5 threat during my turn, but also just being a 3/5 body is decent enough to deal with all of the stuff the opponent has on board here. So I quested my Prince John because I want to kind of bait the opponent to take out my board as well and not continue questing, and sure enough they do. I make another huge misplay here and just passing turn. I could have used Beast to crash into the Flynn Rider and then just bippity boppity boot it back to my hand and replayed it so that it wouldn't have damage and I can retain the draw. I didn't see that line when I was playing. I just passed, so that was a big misplay on my part. We draw 2 again though, and we get a Benja and a Tinkerbell, so I drop both. And at this point, I think I take out the Flynn Rider because I'm a little fearful of the Shift Flynn top deck, which would quest them up to 19. So that's why I did that. I figured if they top deck another Queen, it's totally fine. They play a Stitch and don't quest with anything. So at this point, I'm looking at the board and I'm like, okay, the Rockstar Stitch is probably more threatening here. So I can use Hypnotize to draw. It costs 3, even though the opponent doesn't have anything. We draw a Smash, and again, I'm considering, do I fear the Shift Queen or the Rockstar? I have to fear the Rockstar more. Shift Queen can, you know, quest and doesn't do anything because there's nothing else to gain the benefit. Whereas Rockstar would just quest for 3, so that extra lore I think was worth targeting the small Stitch. Now we draw a Cinderella, and at this point the game is almost over. Draw into another Hypnotize when it's kind of useless. I'm going to use the Bees to take out the queen. My guess is because I wanted to bait the opponent to take out my beast with their Duke and just stop questing. I don't have game on board yet. They top deck a Daisy Duck, and again, this is not enough. They have to take out my beast here, and that causes them to lose their Duke. Yeah, maybe I misplayed. I probably could have taken out something with the Benja instead so that my beast would have lived, but at this point, being a 7/5 body doesn't do much because it lost the Straw Engine. But here you can see, yeah, we are threatening game. There's nothing they can really top deck to get them out of this. They pass turn, and that's going to be it. If you made it this far in the video, thank you again for watching. Let me know in the comment section below if you enjoyed these gameplay videos, and make sure you check out the link in the description for the full deck list analysis. I'm probably posting up the screenshot here, but yeah, just let me know if you enjoy these additional supplementary videos to the deck list videos, because I know those deck list videos get more views, but I think it's important for you guys to see different interactions and how the deck plays out. Anyways, let's wrap it up there. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.